On time again? Bro. It's like Christmas, 11 months early. Many such cases. Welcome back to the stream. It's Mario Kart time again. Also time for more concerning things, but I'll get to that when I get to that. In the interest of viewer retention, etc., etc. I usually don't want to go over the biggest items on the list first. I'll get to Iran and Pakistan in a little while. First thing I want to connect to Weemfi. Play some online races. Is there anyone online? 3 people! Nice. That person is in the middle of the Indian Ocean. As am I think. I don't have my location set for this. Yeah. Oh, look at that. They are playing this track. This track is cool. I like it. This ending section is a little bit weird. I feel like if anything were to change about the track, I think that should be cleaned up a bit. But yeah, pretty nice, I suppose. Let's follow our boy Funky Kong. I want to actually, I'll start with something that I should have gone over 2 weeks ago because that's when it was breaking news. Erin in the morning. Shout outs to Erin Reed. She does incredible work. She is probably America's foremost trans journalist, up there with I think Alejandra Carballo. Although I know they occasionally do journalism on other countries as well. From Erin's own website, this news was from January 5th. So again, like I said, a couple weeks ago. Only 5 days into the year, 125 anti-trans bills have been filed in the United States. This is more than double the pace, as she says, of the introduction of these bills in 2023. So, let's see. There are some states highlighted in red. The worst cases here, where I think the most bills have been introduced, are Nebraska, Missouri, Oklahoma, Ohio, Florida, and New Hampshire. And then there are some other states in lighter shades of red and pink, including, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, Arizona, Wisconsin, of all places, and Pennsylvania. Which is not, like, by any stretch a majority of the United States by landmass or population, but this is still very concerning because that's a lot of people that we're talking about between these states. That's easily more than, like, I don't know, 80, 90 million people, potentially even 100 million. A lot of people live in these states. In fact, there's been some quote unquote debate on the floor of the legislatures in some of these states about these bills. And the reason I put debate in quotes is because the Republican parties in these states where they control the legislatures, they've already made up their mind, and the opening up the floor of the legislature for comment and debate and whatever, that's a formality. They don't intend to actually listen to anything, because they're all going to vote the same way on the bill, whatever happens. And I think in Ohio, the Republicans passed the bill, and then it reached the governor's desk, and then he vetoed the bill, and then the Republican state Congress overrode the veto. They hate trans people that much, and it was a bill that would affect all of one person. So, shout outs to the Republican Party for the issues that really matter, really focusing on preventing this one trans teenager from doing sports in school. it should kind of be self-evident by this point, but Republicans are just, evil dickheads who hate trans people. They have a massive hate boner for trans people, trans kids especially, which is very weird. Uh, you know, kind of weird champ, not gonna lie. And really, these bills are on another note. I think that they are indicative of the decay in the Republican Party, because they have nothing. The Republican Party, like, this is all that they can talk about in the legislature, and this isn't even very popular. Like, they lose votes over this stuff. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, 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 okay. We're good, we're good. Combine that with state Republican parties running out of money, and hopefully we'll see them get some sort of beating over the brow in the 2024 elections. Hopefully they will get blown out as a result of them pursuing genocidal policies. Like, some of these policies are incredibly severe. Like, so much so to the point that, like, it would ban just being trans or identifying as trans. Like, some of these bills would force teachers to out students to their likely abusive parents. Some of these bills would, like, make it illegal to use people's preferred pronouns if it differs from the sex they were assigned at birth, which is really wacky. Don't know how they came up with that one. Probably just misery maxing, as it were. Whoa, what? I kind of did that right, but not really. I can't believe I got second. I think I drove pretty well. It's been a while since I've played that track. +0 exactly. Love to see it. Uh, yeah, it seems like this year, with already so many anti-trans bills don't introduce, it seems like this is going to be the year of anti-trans bills, at least until the Republicans get fucked up in the elections, which hopefully they will. You'd be surprised. Trans issues, although Republicans have decided to, like, make that front and center, it's been almost exclusively to their detriment, because it does galvanize people to vote. It just galvanizes them to vote against Republicans. It's the same thing with abortion, especially now that states are starting to introduce protections for abortion. Republicans have tied their own hands behind their back, because if they oppose those protections, then they would have to encounter the right and accurate critiques that they are against abortion in general, which is a pretty uncontroversial medical component of, like, prenatal care. And that also loses them a lot of support. Ah. Take it. I don't want it anymore. I think that was good decision making by me. I'm gonna hold on to this red shell. I'm content to drive in second. You can have first. I'm hoping this guy remembers that like, I made the active decision not to try to snipe first away from him. Unfortunately for you, Rosalina, I am interested in maintaining second. Whew. Intense race. Oh, dang. Oh, I didn't quite get him. No. I mean, yes, the best item. Fuck! Asshole. What is Paul doing? What is he cooking? I may never know. Ooh. Somebody responding to me with a message on Mastodon. Blocked. Got him. Alright, random. That meant to do this. There we go. Backspace. Yeah. I don't think there's very much for me to add on the issue of all these anti-trans bills being introduced. It's pretty self-explanatory that that's bad. Because anti-trans bills have never done anything except harm trans youth and trans people generally. Oh. I tried to do epic snipe and then swerve, but it didn't happen like that. Alright. Where do I want to use this gold? I think I know where. Use it up here. Okay. Cool. Second. Whoa, how am I in first now? That's kind of wacky. Not quite. Ah. Okay. It's a little bit too bloodthirsty there. I have a mushroom, so I'm probably going to try to do that shortcut. Oh, he also has a mushroom. Interesting. If the person behind me doesn't have a red shell, that would suck for me. Nice. I'm gonna leave this room. Man. Let's try a regular worldwide. Let's see what's bumping in there. I know Mach can be a dangerous decision in a regular worldwide, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, got a room with some people in it at least. Ada. Man. All right, let's see what's up. Hopefully I can drive decently well. That'd be good. I guess as time goes on, it's going to be easier and easier for me to make good decisions while driving, you know? Ah, a clan tag. Let me not watch this person, because they are a sweat lord. Let's watch this Luigi. And I will move on to something else that I was going to talk about. I've not talked about Iran and Pakistan yet. I planned that to, if possible, be like close to the last thing. Or like somewhere near the middle of stream. Something like that. But right now I think I'll mention that, like, I think I'm gonna start reading again. Like, reading a book or article or whatever. Because I read about Vietnam a little bit, and that was interesting. But I want to read, I think, Adam Smith. I have Adam Smith's On the Wealth of Nations. I got it for Christmas in 2022. And I would like to read it because of because of a couple of things. First off, like, Adam Smith represents like the forefather of capitalism and capitalist thought and whatever. And that can be useful just to understand. To better understand like what I'm refuting, since I'm a socialist. But then also, I actually think that Adam Smith would agree more with me than modern capitalists, than he would with modern capitalists, for a couple reasons. And obviously, we'll see if that's actually borne out in my reading of the text. But I know a lot of the stuff he talks about is about the market economy and capitalism, as opposed to, I think, feudalism is what people were still transitioning out of back in the day. And he talks a lot about labor specialization and stuff, something that I'm not opposed to. I think specialized labor is critical to building a functioning economy of scale. And you need stuff like that for a globalized economy, which is a genie and bottle sort of thing. We have a globalized economy. We can't go back to not having one, right? It's just a question of managing it properly. Where the critical thing that I think would potentially mean Adam Smith is closer to modern socialism than modern capitalism is his attitudes towards rent seeking. Adam Smith is really not a fan of landlords. Like I mentioned, that, capitalism in the 18th century was this massive ideological refutation of feudalism. And who reigned supreme in feudalism? Nobles, landed aristocracy, landlords, right? And the problem that Adam Smith had with landlords, that he articulates pretty well, is that they don't do any work for themselves. They are parasites that leech off of the work of others, and they are sort of this instrument of hierarchy that, funnels wealth to, people who don't provide anything for society, and stuff like that. Of course, people would rightly point out that, like, of course, that doesn't necessarily also apply to business owners, because these are very different climates, and the business owners are clearly not one-to-one with feudal landlords, and that's true. But I think the core of it is the same. The business owners and, like, investors and all that of today, the capitalist class of today, does basically the same thing as the feudal nobility of Adam Smith's time and somewhat before. which is to say that they engage in rent seeking. You know, the passive income and all that. That's wealth that somebody else has generated that people would take advantage of. And of course, in the modern day, we do still have landlords, and I don't think Adam Smith would be a terribly big fan of that either. Um, you know, basically, I think that Adam Smith would see in modern day capitalism a lot of the flaws that he saw in feudal Europe and the aristocracy of his time, in that the people on top, in this case, like business owners, investors, and all that, are basically just glorified landlords who engage in rent seeking as their means of making money. A company can function without a CEO and without shareholders on the outside, right? Like, obviously, when we're talking about a market economy, you do need money to be invested into companies and things like that. You do not need a dedicated class of people in order to accomplish this. Um, you don't need that executive echelon. The higher up you go in a company, the less people contribute. Um, like way upper management, and then the executive, like the board, the CEO, they don't do all that much. Some of the stuff they do is important. And for that reason, you could argue in defense of having some sort of parallel structure like that, elected democratically from the whole collective of the workforce, right? This would be the world that market socialism envisions, right? You choose who is in what position in order to steer the company in a given direction. But as it stands now, the sort of the model for making money and the what people envision when they think of an entrepreneur is not somebody that is creating something of value for society, but rather somebody who is doing a hustle and who is finding clever ways to get a passive income without actually doing anything. And whether people realize this or not, that is always the purview of the CEO and the executive, the shareholder, and all that. Or rather, the career shareholder. I wouldn't call somebody a shareholder if they, like, I don't know, they buy some stock from fucking Toyota and they're like, yay, now I own one Toyota stock. That doesn't make you a shareholder. Although, again, like, that gets into the really complicated stuff. But, like I said, that's just my impression that I get of Adam Smith from what I have read of him. A couple of quotes about him really, really not liking landlords and rent seeking. And sort of me extending that same logic to say, well, then he might not like modern businesses and modern business owners very much. But I don't know if that's the case. And it's possible that he could also say something in The Wealth of Nations that would indicate the contrary, that he actually would be a huge fan of modern capitalism. I don't know. I guess I'll see when I read it. But regardless, I think reading it will be useful. I have kind of a strategy in mind to approach to reading on the Wealth of Nations. And it would be great, at the very least, to know the origins of the system that I have a large number of problems with, if nothing else. And while I'm talking about Adam Smith and rent seeking and all that, I have gotten first on my least favorite track in the game. If anybody remembers my track ranking video, I put this one dead last. Wow. 69? Nice. Let's go next race. I might do one or two more races in a regular worldwide room, and then I'll probably go try custom tracks again. Yeah. In fact, I think my strategy for Adam Smith's book will be, like, I'm going to color code my notes based on, like, okay, this color is what is he arguing here? This color is, like, is this a factual error that he's making here in this other thing? And then maybe another color would be, do I agree or disagree with this? Just to sort of categorize my notes in a way that would make it easily readable. Yeah. I guess now I could probably start talking about, well, I could talk about something else. Labor. Since I was talking about Adam Smith talks about the specialization of labor, craft labor in particular. He talked a lot about workshops, because this was pre-industrialization. But you know who else loves talking about labor? The modern left, especially the Twitter left and all that. Very few times will I be in agreement with what I would consider to be like the most rabid parts of the online left and whatever. But there is a rare instance when I am in agreement with them on like a significant thing. And that is the skilled versus unskilled labor discourse. You guys have probably heard some version of this, like, maybe not this argument, like this debate or whatever, but some version of the distinction between skilled and unskilled labor that in basic terms, in layman's terms, skilled labor is labor that you need a college education to do, and then unskilled labor is labor that you don't need a college education or sometimes even any formal education in order to do, right? And there's a fundamental flaw in that that attitude, in the like in the usage of the term like skilled versus unskilled labor, is that people mistake fucking book smarts for skills. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Basically, I'm taking the side that there is no such thing as unskilled labor. Doing labor in and of itself takes skill. It requires a certain skill and set of skills to do any kind of labor. Doesn't matter what it is. You know, and that doesn't mean that all labor is equally as easy or difficult as each other. Obviously, there are some jobs that are going to be easier or harder from one perspective or another, and I don't want to like discount that in any way, shape, or form, right? But the people who say that like flipping a burger at McDonald's as your job, like doing minimum wage work, is not work that takes skill, are plainly unserious, and I would not trust them to identify the broadside of a barn when it comes to labor discussions, right? There's obviously, you know, like I said, that doesn't mean every job is created equal here, but like the term skilled and unskilled labor is as much, in fact, more so, it is prescriptive rather than descriptive. When something is called unskilled labor, it's basically saying like, oh, this job is easy and anybody could do it, and it's brainless, and you can be a zombie and do this labor. You could be an imbecile, and that's a justification implicitly to pay people less for doing jobs like that. When people say unskilled labor is a capitalist myth to justify poverty wages, that is about the larpiest way that you could phrase that, but it is correct that like the only reason that we use such morally loaded terms to describe what would otherwise just be labor with a greater or lesser demand of like technical knowledge that you could learn from an institution of higher education, because that's not all technical knowledge. You know, when people use those terms, right? Those terms are necessarily assigning value, like moral value, to the work that you're doing. And skilled labor, as a concept, it like implicitly applies higher moral value to that work, and is like, okay, so then we should pay those people more, and we should pay people who do unskilled labor less. And in fact, that doesn't mean that quote-unquote unskilled labor is any less essential either. Like there's a fundamental disconnect between the implications of the term skilled and unskilled labor and the actual amount of skill it takes to like be a laborer. You know, all labor is skilled labor. You have to have skills. If you have no skills, you cannot do any kind of labor at all. Nice try. No thunderclouds today. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Nicole Hoff 1, thank you for the follow. Oh god, I adjusted this wrong. Okay. Hello, welcome to the chat. Sorry, I had to readjust very hurriedly the game window. What's up? Oh, not much. Just talking about some silly online debates about what skilled versus unskilled labor means. I guess to summarize my thoughts, because obviously I turn everything into a leftist meme, whether I realize it or not. There is no such thing as unskilled labor, because if you are unskilled, then that means you cannot do any kind of labor. And the phrasing of skilled versus unskilled labor is really just used to justify paying quote-unquote unskilled laborers a lot less. And that's dumb. And if people, like, engage with that framing uncritically, like the skilled versus unskilled job thing, then they're participating in that same justification for, like, yeah, this labor doesn't take skill, so you should get less money for doing it, which is not how that works as a moral question. All right, let me try to pull myself together in the last moments of this race. Okay. Ah! Damn it, Chewie. I was trying to go tight to, like, not run into them. Ah! Frustrating. One mushroom. You stream on a daily basis? Every other day. So not quite daily, but as close as I can, manage. Did I drive well that race? I feel like I did, but I just kind of got bumped relentlessly, and wrong place, wrong time, etc., etc. All right, let's go try to find some custom track worldwides now that I've done a few regular ones. You're consistent. Yeah, I try to be. That tends to be good for the health of a stream channel, and also tends to be good for my mental health, because if I can build something into a routine, it makes it that much easier to do. Believe me when I say that being a talking head for 2 hours while driving is not the easiest thing in the world. Driving in-game, not in real life. In real life, you shouldn't do that. I appreciate that. Well, thank you. I'm glad to know that I'm appreciated by the viewers. DM. Is there nobody online in custom tracks? That's kind of disappointing if that's the case. You like 3D models of gaming characters? I don't do much modeling myself, but 3D models and custom skins are always very cool. As you could probably tell by the fact that I have quite a few of them in this game. You know, Dragonite over Dry Bowser, the Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver skin over my Mii character, White Donkey Kong, Pepsi Man, Heracross, and then Funky Kong you can't see on the menu, but in the game when you're racing, Funky Kong has a trans flag tank top on. Oh yeah, and then I also replaced Peach with Bowsette and Birdo with Ampharos. So. Which character do you like the most? In this game, I probably... That's kind of a tough question. I really like the Mii character, the midweight Mii. That one's cool. Funky Kong has a really cool design. I think it gels particularly well with the bikes in this game. He's also very cool, but I don't use him as much. Dragonite is one of my favorite Pokemon because he has the most gargantuan fucking attack stat out of probably every Pokemon in Generation 1. And then... yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there is a single character that I like the most in Mario Kart Wii. There are definitely characters that I'm not as much a fan of. The lightweights. The lightweights I'm not usually particularly partial towards because I think their models are too small for me to... you can make it for me if you want. No, thank you. I am not in need of such services right now, but I appreciate the offer. Now, if you will please read the sign, no solicitations. Oh boy, 100cc. Three mushrooms. Ow. Thought a box would respawn there, but I guess not. This room is actually a good example of something I was talking about last stream. Is that this room is mostly like 4,000 to 6,000 VR players, but all the people here are like clearly pretty good at the game. Like all these guys have really good snap decision making and like of the moment decision making, right? Barely edged out second place there. I'm probably going to leave this room as well. Granted, it's possible that it's because this is like a shorter track and whatnot. Yeah, VR is not necessarily indicative of skill level. Hey, you know what? That's something to tie into the skill versus unskilled job conversation. Skill affects how good you are at a given job, not necessarily if you can do it or not. That like people treat skill as this sort of thing where like it will unlock certain jobs on a sliding scale, right? Like low skill means you get the low skill jobs, and then high skill means you get the high skill jobs. When in reality, all it affects is that you could probably get any one of those jobs. But then, like, how well will you perform in that job? That is affected by your skill level. And obviously, that's not like uniform or whatever. Hopefully, that makes sense. But yeah, I maintain skill versus unskilled labor is a really dumb way of it's a really dumb convention, naming convention, because the implication is, oh, unskilled labor is less valuable, and that's inherent to the name unskilled. Therefore, we should pay them less money for what they do. Never mind the fact that some people that would be considered as like unskilled laborers are like fucking doing some of the most important jobs out there. In fact, it seems to basically be the distinction between a blue collar and white collar job. Like from what I've seen online, when people talk about skilled versus unskilled labor, their image of skilled labor seems to always be white collar office job that requires a college degree, and their image of like unskilled labor tends to be blue collar industry job or like hard labor that does not require a college degree necessarily, which is a wildly classist characterization of the specialization of labor. Now I'm done for real. That is not going to be a segment. I'm already working on something else. I don't have time to make everything into segments. Okay. Let's go back and talk about one of the other things. Which is the Pope. You guys know who the Pope is, right? He's John Catholicism. The guy, not the guy that invented Catholicism, but he's in charge of it. You know, he's the head guy. Recently, the Pope said some really interesting things that I think are good. First, I mean, like, because of, like, my ideological disposition, you know, but then also just because of the implications of like, indicating your political support for certain objectives rather than just ideologies. And I'll get to that in a second. I have, ironically, I have decided to go with an article from the Vatican News. They have their own newspaper over there in the Vatican, which is pretty funny, I guess. And of course, the only reason I'm going to Vatican News for this is because it's mostly just covering what the Pope has said, and so I feel like that's kind of appropriate. And I didn't see any other news articles really, or news outlets really talking about it. Not the like mainstream ones that you'd see in America, anyways. Because I guess most Americans aren't Catholic. I used that just in the nick of time. I guess it didn't really matter because the shock happened as well. But, you know. What? I've never gotten a bounce like that on Delfino Square. Excuse me. Ow! Holy shit! Okay. You know, initially I was like, oh, my VR's at like 9,300. I might be able to make number go up. But then I was like, okay, you know, maybe not. And so I just need to not care about that. You see, I am autistic. I am always a sucker for number go up. I'm in 8th. I should get a good item if I chain here. Although I understand those are famous last words. Okay, that works. No! Dude, I felt like I was driving pretty well, too. It puts me after the boxes. That's rough. Alright, 6th place, I think? Yeah, okay. You know, I could have driven better. I think that's my takeaway there. That bump was so bizarre. I'll stick with this room for a little while as well, until, like, custom tracks have some people playing again. Anyways. Vatican News. Here's some shit that the Pope has said. Pope encourages Marxists and Christians to fight corruption and uphold the rule of law. Yeah, you heard that right. I did just say Marxists, and that's part of this news article. Pope Francis meets with representatives of the Dialogue Transversal Dialogue Project. That's quite a name. An initiative that invites socialists and Christians to work for a common ethic and invites them to build a better future for our polarized world. How long is this article? It's not super long. Let's read a little bit from each section, I guess. People who are poor, unemployed, homeless, immigrants, or exploited, as well as those killed by past dictatorships and turned into rubbish by the, quote, throwaway culture of the present, the level of a society's civilization is measured by the way they are treated, the Pope said. Basically, him saying that, like, hey, look, we are judged morally by how we treat the most vulnerable people and whatnot. And I think the gist of what he's saying, as it goes on in the article, is that, like, socialists and Marxists are some of the few people who are really willing to engage with how do you engage in pretty radical policymaking to uplift the impoverished, where it seems like most liberals and conservatives have kind of foregone that conversation. And the Pope, because he actually has read the teachings of Christ, uh, also cares about this. I didn't get him. Somebody did the shortcut. Oh, somebody did the rock hop. Dude, people just do the rock hop online. That's kind of insane. I'm going to chain this right here. Might not be the 100% best place to use it. But I think I made pretty good use of it while it lasted. I got him. He is oh, he failed the rock hop. And now I'm in first, which is where I kind of don't want to be, actually. Okay, now I'm good. Whew. That shock actually came at a pretty good time. I was still able to get an item. Oh, that was perfect. I got the trick when I was small, so I didn't get that much air, but when I landed, I was big. I am hanging back in second because I know what's good for me. I know that a blue shell could come and murk this guy at any second. And I don't want to be the one getting murked by the blue shell. So, I'm big chillin'. No, somebody's gonna do the shortcut. Yeah. All right. Really intelligent, driving that race from me. I think that was probably peak decision making for that track. Let's see. Here we go. This section is titled "Freedom, Equality, Dignity, and Fraternity." It is the imagination, in fact, that intelligence, intuition, experience, and historical memory meet to create venture and risk, the Pope stressed. He recalled how over the centuries, quote, it has been the great dreams of freedom and equality, of dignity and fraternity, a reflection of God's dream that have produced progress and advances. In this sense, the Pope indicated three attitudes for dialogue to carry out its commitment: the courage to break the mold, attention to the weak, and the promotion of a culture based on the rule of law. Now, as an anarchist, I'm not the biggest fan of the rule of law, but look, I'll overlook that and whatever, because the most important thing here is the attention to the weak and the vulnerable. And I think they need that attention more than anybody else on the planet because of the nature of being weak and vulnerable. In an era marked at various levels by conflicts and disagreements, let us not lose sight of what can still be done to reverse the course. Yeah. Very flowery language from the Pope in this next couple paragraphs, but he also levies some criticisms of the market system and of finance, which is actually very in keeping with what is said in the Bible. You know, all kinds of, like, the money lenders are inside the temple sort of stuff. Ow. Just don't wheelie. I'm gonna use this here. Blue shell. I'll just throw that, I suppose. I'm gonna go wide to avoid that. There we go. I'm driving pretty smart so far. The question is it gonna matter? Hopefully the answer to that is yes, but I'm not entirely sure. Damn it, I didn't get a box. I hope enough people pass me, but are just, like, close ahead for me to get the next item. That'd be pretty good. 6th place? Sure. That's good, that's good. I'll take that. Oh my god, everybody died. And I got 2nd. Well then. Really smart racing that race too, I think. How about that? All right, I do one more and then I'll look for custom tracks again. Here we go. Yeah, criticism of finance and market mechanisms. The Pope then called for constant attention to be paid to the weak because the measure of civilization is evident in how it treats those on the margins of society. In off-the-cuff remarks, the Pope recalled the history of the recent past. Let us not forget that the great dictatorships, think of Nazism, discarded the vulnerable and killed them, he said. Very true. He urged world leaders to put in place policies that are, quote, truly at the service of humanity, saying that society, quote, cannot allow itself to be dictated by finance and market mechanisms. Solidarity, besides being a moral virtue, is a requirement of justice, which requires correcting distortions and purifying the intentions of unjust systems, as well as radical changes of perspective in the sharing of challenges and resources among men and among peoples. Yeah. Pretty based, I think. And there's a little bit more about corruption and lawlessness, as he puts it. Pretty fire stuff from the Pope, the woke Pope. A mega mushroom? I wonder. I'm just gonna hold on to this. I'll see what I can do with it later. Damn it. So far, my decision making has been poor. This race. Let's do something like this. Yes, thank you. Okay. Get out of here. I didn't get an item. I'm in 5th with no item, and I just got bumped. Okay, 6th. I would actually rather be in 6th than in 5th here. No! Okay. That was a pretty close call. Okay, 4th. Middle of the pack. Let's try to find a custom track room. And I will read the section on corruption and illegality. Finally, Pope Francis encouraged a culture based on the rule of law. Fight the scourge of corruption, abuses of power, and illegality, he said. Because only in honesty and deeds can healthy relationships be established, and we can cooperate with trust and efficiency in the construction of a better future. He expressed his gratitude for the courage to work for a more just and peaceful world at the recommended of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And recommended that the gospel of Jesus Christ may always inspire and illuminate your research and actions. Beyond religious and ideological boundaries, is a quote from the Pope, Christians and Marxists, as well as people of goodwill, oh no, wait, this is not from the Pope, this is from Dialogue, excuse me, might be. During the audience, the Dialogue group presented to the Pope the results of work of the last 10 years, carried out also with the source of the dicastery of the Catholic culture and education. Beyond religious and ideological boundaries, Christians and Marxists, as well as people of goodwill, they explain in a note, recognize today that they are united in their commitment to the end of armed conflicts in the world and the security of the most basic human rights in order to guarantee social equilibrium and peace for humanity. Yeah, pretty cool as far as, like, the Catholic Church goes, right? I think this is actually going to do a lot in two directions. First, it's going to, for people who are genuinely Catholic and care about their religious values and the teachings of Jesus Christ as written in the Bible, this is going to legitimize the ideas of socialism, Marxism, and communism in a lot of people's eyes. And I think that's good because the image of socialism that will be legitimized is one of fighting against systemic injustice and poverty, which is at the core what socialism is about. It's about radically changing structures that exist in order to benefit the people that are the most vulnerable. Obviously that involves at some point a degree of expropriation of people who have a lot of wealth. But again, they can afford to lose that wealth. And it's an idea that most people can get behind, that like the world is absolutely not doing enough for people on the margins of society, people who are economically very desperate, and we need to be doing more for them specifically. None of this austerity politics, geopolitics bullshit. More social democracy would be based, as in like welfare state and whatnot, not the cringe liberal sockdoms nowadays. Yeah. And in the other direction, for some Catholics, it will legitimize the concepts of socialism as like a way of fighting against poverty, against unjust institutions and whatever. There are other Catholics, particularly in America, who will be driven away from Catholicism because they don't actually care about the values professed by their religious book. They are just Warhammer nerds who like the fucking Deus Vult memes or whatever. And they're going to start pretending to be, I don't know, Protestant or Orthodox, one of the two. Because those churches don't have leaders that would say anything amiable to the interests of the poor or like the left. And in the case of Protestantism, that means that like the religion itself officially just doesn't have any leaders. Protestantism is a very decentralized religion. In the case of Orthodoxy, particularly, people would probably move towards Russian Orthodoxy, where the Patriarchate of Moscow is in pretty thoroughly in the pocket of Vladimir Putin. What the... Bro, I got so bumped. Okay. Let's try this again. You have to jump there. That's the trick to it. Bullet bill. All right. Keep trying to not make any really dumb decisions here with the way I drive. Ooh. Here, I'll wait for you to be good, and then I'll throw this. I also have a little some of this. Cool. There we go. Got it. Nice. That POW got me a little bit. But I think I'm still relatively okay as far as my position is concerned here. Playing it very safe. Guarantee somebody's going to use the shock here. Or maybe not. Okay. Maybe nobody had the shock. Maybe that's what's up. So far, so good. In terms of me driving. There's a pretty significant lapse on Bowser's Castle, I think. Where I just did not drive intelligently. Alright. It's about an hour in. I think I should move on to the namesake of the stream. Much has been made of this, and not without reason. The Middle East is heating up. A sentence that you never usually want to hear. In fact, that you shouldn't really ever want to hear. The news of the past couple of days was, I think, if I go to Reuters here, I think Reuters and CNN World both had some pieces on this. Iran went sicko mode for some fucking reason. Let me look at the map. CNN World had a map of the strikes that Iran did in the Middle East. Because Iran just fucking... They took a page out of the Houthis book and just started dabbing on random neighboring countries. Or was it New York Times? Yeah, okay. New York Times has this map. Iran launched missile strikes to Herim, Syria, which is relatively near the Mediterranean coast. Erbil, Iraq, which is kind of close to the Iranian border. And then Kosabs, Pakistan, also relatively close to the Iranian border, but on, in the east, near the Indian Ocean and the Persian Gulf. Right? Very wacky stuff. Civilian casualties, of course, did occur because, this is Iran. As much as we meme about the United States having a really bad record of civilian casualties, that is mostly the United States in relation to other Western countries, because the United States has a somewhat higher threshold for acceptable, collateral damage, as it were. The United States still has rules of engagement and standards for that sort of thing. Iran probably has comparatively more lax standards for that. Not because Iran is inherently morally worse or anything. No, just because they have an authoritarian theocratic government, and those governments don't tend to care as much about civilian casualties. In fact, in the strikes on Pakistan, the only people who died, as far as we know, were civilians. So oops, all civilian casualties, it seems. Okay. And these strikes, I'll be perfectly honest, these strikes didn't make a whole lot of sense. And they still don't make that much sense. What I've heard is the most likely explanation for this is that Iran really has it out for the Kurds, and since they are, authoritarian theocrats and whatever, the fascists, fascism will rot your brain, and it tends to make countries erratically act with respect to international law and geopolitical norms and things like that, to such an extent that you do really dumb shit. Sometimes the degree to which countries go insane from fascism is so much that it breaches their self-interest. They do things contrary to their own self-interest because they are that fascist. But that's not all. That's not all that's been happening in the region. Recently, Pakistan actually responded. They responded with strikes of their own. They counterstruck, I think, Iranian territory where supposedly militants were hiding out. The like ostensible aim of both of these strikes. I don't know the degree to which any of these countries are to be like taken at their word ever, let alone in this case. But on paper, what they were doing is targeting insurgent groups in each of the others' territories that were hostile to their interests. Right, like for Iran, they were targeting Kurdish separatists, and then for Pakistan, they were targeting like some kind of radical militant group. I forget who exactly. Um, Never thought that an Irano-Indian alliance is possible. Yeah, it's you know, the odds of that I think still low, but not exactly zero. I think this is just like Iran went insane. They went sicko mode, and now they're like, I do not know what they are cooking, honestly. Uh, Here we go from Reuters. Pakistan launched strikes on separatist militants inside Iran on Thursday in a retaliatory attack 2 days after Tehran said it struck the bases of another group within Pakistani territory. So they're going at this weird tit for tat. Like they're supposed to be kind of on good terms with each other. In fact, they say as much. Iran has said like, oh, we still want to remain good neighborly countries with each other, but they're like posturing in that sort of way. If Pakistan nukes Iran, who does America bomb? Also Iran, because we're allied with Pakistan. But no, I did want to touch on that as well. I don't know what Iran is cooking, but one thing is for sure, and that is that it's not World War III. As much as it is scary to watch this happen, I want to assure people right now that this regional conflict, as bad as it might get, is not going to lead to nuclear annihilation, right? Even though Pakistan is a nuclear power and Iran is an aspiring nuclear power, and the reason for that is that like basically because nukes would be the end of the world, and nobody wants to be that guy. Nobody wants to be the guy that pushes the button, right? The world is going crazy these days. Yeah, it is. In large part because of the Israeli genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. Like that has done a lot to heat up the region. But the reason that nobody like presses the nuke button, first of all, is because nobody wants to be the guy that ended the whole world. And then if somebody were actually crazy enough to do that, they would be disappeared in about 30 minutes by 69 different intelligence agencies. Like, everybody in the world doesn't want anybody to be that guy. Never mind the fact that nobody wants to be themselves that guy. So even if the nuclear war, like, seemed to be actually kind of imminent, we would very quickly start to see, like, very quickly we would see that leader get, like, deposed and killed or something like that. Did you hear Kim call a peace monument between North and South Korea an eyesore? No, I did not, but that is very in character for Kim Jong-un, because they do a lot of drum beating and brow beating in North Korea. Very jingoistic country. Although I think, given that, even if Kim is insane, not everybody advising him is insane, and I think they know that there's not really anything they can do about like the South, and if they were to go to war, the South would win, because the South would have the support of the West, especially the United States. But that is nonetheless funny that he like saw a peace monument and he just got really salty about it. You know, and when I saw the story about like Iran and Pakistan, I was like, oh, it's a peace monument inside of North Korea? Interesting. Don't know how that works exactly, but that's even funnier. The fact that it's a North Korean monument to peace between the North and the South, and then the dictator of North Korea is like, what an eyesore. It's like, okay. He's mad, I think. Ah. He wants to remove it. Not super surprising. Is what he wants to remove any ideas of beating the same people with South Korea. Really? That is interesting. Korean reunification monument. That is fascinating. That represents a departure from what North Korea has said in the past. Yo, what's up, 1v3? I just got done talking a bit about Iran and Pakistan, and now we're talking about North Korea. Interesting stuff happening around the world. Yeah, I wouldn't expect that. You know, when I was in middle and high school, when I started learning about like geography and international politics and whatever, you know, the whole narrative around North Korea, which is still mostly unchanged, is that like they're isolationist, they're, you know, despotic and dictatorial and whatever, and life is horrible there. But then also they have these weird like LARPy aspirations of reconquering the South and then reunifying Korea under the North Korean banner. The fact that they've given that up is interesting to me. I don't know if that's like them kind of tacitly acknowledging, yeah, you know, there's no way we'll really be able to do this, so we kind of have to shift some of the narrative around. That definitely raises an eyebrow to me because it seems like so little has changed with regards to like how North Korea talks about itself until that. Here, North Korea. Here, remove unification. Is that it? Yeah, look. Okay, CNN. I mean, I don't usually like CNN, but North Korea's Kim vows to dismantle father's unification arc as he declares South Korea, quote, principal enemy. Huh. He's big mad. Ah, yes, the Supreme People's Assembly. Very funny name, actually. Recent bellicose statements from the North Korean leader, including New Year's declaration, that the North was ending a policy of seeking reconciliation with South Korea. Huh. I guess that's kind of in line with what the last thing I talked about with North Korea, which was that they did those, like, missile tests, or like, sort of missile strike posturing, whatever. I guess now that, like, that's kind of weird that they're now, like, there's this roundabout acknowledgement that the South is its own country from the North end of things. Honestly, you know what? I think that's good in the long run. I think it's good that like, they no longer are taking the line of South and North Korea are the same Korea or whatever. Like the past several decades of de-escalation with a few words from a random idiot. Yeah, it's possible that like something that level happens. It's all gone now. Well, here's the thing, is that I think, you know, North Korea has historically been pretty belligerent with respect to South Korea, you know, under all of its leaders and whatever. But this represents an interesting change for me, in that, like, even though North Korea is now taking this seemingly more belligerent attitude towards the South, it's within the lines of, like, the South is its own country, right? You know, they're at least willing to admit that. And I think that actually opens up the possibility that in the future, maybe not in the near future, but, you know, intermediate to a little bit more distant future, uh, North Korea opens up to the rest of the world just a little bit, right? Because border disputes can be a big barrier to engaging diplomatically and economically even with other countries. Dude, that Mario guy is going off. Um, but yeah, obviously he's being a lot meaner to South Korea now. North Korea has also been active militarily in recent weeks, firing hundreds of artillery runs. Yeah, that's right. I heard about that story. Bolstering all agencies for promoting cooperation with Seoul. South and North Korea are really interesting special countries, but North Korea being a bad kind of special, yeah, or like a special kind of bad, or whatever, yeah. Yeah, for the long time, they were like one of the true isolationist countries in the world. Well, technically, North Korea has a th in its name, so it really do belong to Lithuania. Many such cases. All is Lithuania. Albania, I mean, but it's but Lithuania this time. Yeah, no, I guess, you know, in a roundabout way, it might sound like I'm being contrarian here, but I think this has potentially good implications in the long run if they're like, all right, fine, we're no longer like laying claim to all of that land there. You hear the Baltics are deporting Russians now? I did not hear that, but that's pretty cringe. And gay, in parentheses, derogatory. One of the more regrettable consequences of the Russo-Ukrainian war is that it's inspired a lot of genuine Russophobia, in addition to justified tension and hatred of the Russian government. You know, people just have a hard time separating people from the states that govern them, I guess, which is also cringe. Give me item. Yes. You know, it sucks too, because I'm sure that the Russians that would leave Russia to be in the Baltics probably don't like the Russian government anymore. Or probably don't like the Russian government very much, you know? So if anything, they would be more sympathetic to the West than to Russia, you know? Because I know the cause often cited for, like, deporting of foreign citizens is, like, sympathies to hostile foreign powers and whatnot. But in the case of Russians who have left Russia, I really don't think that would be the case. Okay. Heard about an article about a Belarusian man who lived here for 20 years. His family had kids, no involvements in politics or military, and got deported for spying. I read it a while ago, though. He even spoke the language. Yeah, that sucks. I mean, look, I think, you know, like, spying, obviously, you know, spying for a foreign country, that's, like, that's crime, whatever. But I think it's, like, I'm pretty sure it's a breach of some human rights standards for the punishment for a crime to be deportation, especially if you're like a citizen of that country and have lived there for a long time, you know? We just had Poland, Hungary doing some good stuff. Now the Baltics coming and ruin that streak, just like back in the 19th and 20th century. I don't know what you're referring to. I'm not sure if I get the joke. West greater than Russia. That's pretty true. Baltics are closing Russian schools now and defunding minority aid programs. That's pretty fucked up. I'll be real. That's pretty fucked up. There's a lot of very justified paranoia for countries that are right on the border with Russia, the Baltics and Finland in particular, as well as obviously Ukraine because they're at war with Russia. But, you know, that because of a tendency that a lot of liberals have, they always think Russia, like, bad equates to, or not always, they tend to think Russia bad equates to, in some measure, Russians bad. Because in their mind, it's like, I don't know, people are the government in every country, no matter how authoritarian the country, which is not true. You know, any individual Russian, even if they've been subject to horrid propaganda and like buy into a lot of the stuff, you can't hold them responsible for the actions of their government, especially when that government is unelected. Because those Russians live in the country for 30 years and don't even bother to learn the language, nobody has an obligation, legally speaking, or morally speaking, to learn the language of the country they're living in. If they can get by without it, that's fine. Like in America, I would not, um, I would not at all use as a defense of deportation that there are Central and South American immigrants that don't speak English. You know, English, even though the United States on paper might not have like an official administrative language, the lingua franca and the dominant language of the United States is English. But there are people here that don't speak English, and that's perfectly fine. Life gets harder for you if you don't speak English. And, you know, at that point, I think it would be useful to learn English, but I don't think that's like... I don't think that's anything to hold against somebody in that respect. Russia awesome, leaders bad. That is true. Russia has some really beautiful landscapes. You ever do the thing where you just take a look at a country through Google Earth sometime? You know, you should try it with Russia. And with Alaska. Pretty similar landscapes, believe it or not. Also saw some video of Belarusian soldiers in some random forest talking about how they will retake Vilnius. Pretty typical browbeating in that respect. You know, cringe fascism, fascist behavior, etc., etc. Fatherless behavior. Litvinism really broke their brain. Yeah, I imagine if that's like the Belarusian strain of fascism, whatever. Yes. But ultimately, there's nothing they can do about that. The Baltics are members of NATO. Belarus is more or less subservient to Russia under the Russia-Belarus Union state. And in a military contest, Russia would lose. There's really no incentive for them to actually pursue that. They would have to go pretty far off the deep end. And again, like I said, with respect to like World War III and countries who might decide to do a nuclear attack, there's a line that if you cross it as like a world leader or as a country, you just get deposed and killed instantly by intelligence agencies because you would represent like too big of a threat to the stability of the entire world. And I don't know for sure that that would be one of them, but I hope it would be. The whole like starting up a regional conflict in Europe with NATO. I think that would probably breach that line. Anyways, I got off track. I was reading a little bit about the North Korean stuff. Projecting peaceful reunification. South Korea not backing off. Said they're not gonna be intimidated by the latest threats. Okay, that's pretty standard. Okay, not much else from that article. Whoa, Mega Mushroom. In a star. So quite a wacky day in news today. Very regional conflict build, unfortunately. About someone sabotages the missiles from North Korea, sending them to Putin while he's getting his vodka. Like, how has no one thought about that? Many such cases. Biggest brain imaginable. Simply missile strike Putin's house as he is having a drink. I've always said this. Whoa, okay, I got some serious air from that. I didn't quite do that section right. Keku, full disclosure, I have a bomb behind you. I just dropped it. I didn't really intend to throw it forward at you. I was going to throw it backwards anyways, but, you know, that's what's up, I guess. Oh, okay. That works out, kind of. Give me a good item, please. 3 mushrooms. I'll take that. I will take that, too. I skipped the mushroom. No, God, dang it. Oh my god, that bump was so bad. Alright, give me item. Come on, give me through here. Third? Fourth? Third? No. We don't need to sabotage them. They are already sabotaged for us from the factory. Yeah, it is true that Russian industry is not not the most incredible in the world. I have 5,000 of those cuties laying around doing nothing but impressing and scaring while you could help out the world taking down Putin. What is he cooking? Oh, that was probably for Flat Earth then. It's not me. Might be. Ooh. In the wind down of the stream, there is one more thing I wanted to talk about. A lot of stuff going on in international politics lately. Not so much stuff. Maybe I've lost my touch for domestic politics. I'd have to, like, revisit how I approach that. The cuties are the atomic bombs. Ah, I see. I don't know. I don't think using atomic bombs is a good idea. We can use the big boy bombs. What is it? The Moab, mother of all bombs, like 2,000 pounds bomb or something like that. But no nukes, please. That'd be pretty bad. Pretty stinky. What? I don't know what happened there, and I don't intend to complain about it because I ended up not having the thundercloud. Thank you very much. Okay, I got him. Rip world in that timeline? True. Imagine the president's last words as he's about to press the button. It's like, Your Honor, I did it for the Vine. Nukes the whole world, and then that's it. And then it would be over in an instant. And just like that, Biden nuked the world for the Vine. Best item. You too, eh, Tony Pizza? Play some Last of Us IRL? That's true. Oh, damn it. I thought I was out of reach of that. It's a shame. Alright. Oh, somebody asked me. Oh. I have an idea, and that's why we don't give Poland nukes. You know what? I think you have a point. I think you have a point there. I remember at the beginning of the Ukraine war, Poland was hovering their finger over the Article 5 button. When Russian munitions did actually land in Poland, like Russia did, whether accidentally or on purpose, I don't think makes a huge difference, but they did bomb some, like, small Polish towns. Looper, our favorite stream guest. True, he's a recurring character, and we love him. I'll use this here. Give him to the Netherlands so they can finally defeat the water. That's true. Oh, hey, actually, speaking of the Netherlands, before I get to the last, the thing I had in mind about Azan, weird champ. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Netherlands because there was something on my mind recently. Uh, Jeez, let me get through this section, and then I can feel more at ease talking about it. 15th century daughter of Crown of Masudi. So what you're really saying is that Russia is actually Lithuanian. Yes, very true. Um, what was I? Oh yeah, about the Netherlands. We've been seeing in a lot of countries in Europe that like fascist parties are gaining prominence. I talked on another stream about how Germany is really fucking cooked. So is the United Kingdom, evidently. And looking at the Netherlands, I would be inclined to think the same thing, right? Like, the Netherlands has a conservative party and two, like, fascist parties that are big players in politics. But I was like, Netherlands actually represents what is pretty close to, for me, the best case scenario for how fascism plays out in a given country. Because it seems like right now, a lot of the West is sort of in this inevitable dance with fascism where people are being radicalized to the far right, and there's a lot of that going on in existing right parties and with new right parties. But in the Netherlands, the fascists don't usually get a chance to do all that much. Think about a while ago, Mark Rutte, the RVV or whatever it was, the Conservative Party, their government collapsed. And then after that, they held new elections, and the BBB became like the big boy in power. And then their government collapsed, right? And then after that happened, they tried to regroup with the new, I think, Dutch Freedom Party or whatever. And now their government is experiencing massive infighting among all the right-wing parties over the subject of immigration, of course, much like the last couple of times as well. But, like, it seems like there's this cycle of far right party or just right wing party comes into power, incompetent government, infighting, and then collapse, and then you sort of repeat until eventually people I think are going to start figuring out like, yeah, maybe the far right doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Freedom Party is conservative in the Netherlands. Oh yes, far right parties have a very storied tendency of calling themselves like the Freedom Party or something like that. And political party naming conventions are pretty wacky all around. Here it's like the pothead leftist. Yeah, that's true. It varies from country to country. I think in Western Europe, a lot of the some of the far right parties tend to be like named for the country or like for freedom and whatever. But yeah, I think that model in the Netherlands, or that like general pattern where, oh, there's a far right party, they came to power, they do massive right wing infighting, and then their government just collapses and that's it. I think that's like the best case scenario for a fascist government when they come to power. Because fascism doesn't work well in peacetime. They have to have this like jingoistic military crisis sort of thing going for them, or they have to be able to manufacture some existential conflict that is plaguing the nation in order to be able to do their thing. But in the Netherlands, they can't really do that. The Netherlands is pretty not threatened from that perspective. And as far as I know, the Netherlands hasn't experienced that many problems with immigration relative to like other countries. So there's not even really that wedge for the far right to use. So they're just going to sort of flail infinitely until there's like nothing more for them to do. And I think that's good. That would lead to a much more uneventful rise and fall of fascism that hopefully does not involve the mass murder of minorities. The force those Belarusian troops were in was in Lithuania. Oh, well, that's not good. That's really not good. Hopefully that doesn't mean too much in the long term. But yeah. But yeah, that's my positive mention of the Netherlands, is that I think we should all be like the Netherlands, where our fascists don't have any conflict to weaponize, and so they just get into power, be incompetent for a few months, collapse the government, and then that goes on until people are like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't vote for these guys. They don't know what the fuck they're doing, and vote for somebody else, like the I don't know, Green Party, Social Democrats, whoever. The socialists, even, dare I suggest, a socialist, that people vote for the social. Yeah. Here's the article, but in Lithuanian. That's okay. There's a translate button. Of course, the race is starting. I'll get to that in a minute. Now we have troops in our borders. Oh. That is it is truly like, you say Lamau as you're that image of Matthew McConaughey, very wild-eyed, and he's like lighting up a cigarette and whatever. You know the one. How? That was such a subtle and specific, like, nudge that I accidentally did that ended up making me miss the track in its entirety. Wow. Alright, I'm gonna use this golden after the ramp. Assuming somebody doesn't use the shock right now, which I don't think they would, because I'm in last, so. Okay. Give me that. Pretty good. Pretty good use of that golden. I gotta say, I really like this version of Ribbon Road being the custom track in this pack. Very cool track. No! I got target shocked in fucking 6th place. Oh, jeez. It looks like I'm not alone either. Somebody in a really back position got target shocked. Another golden mushroom. Well, I at least have the assurance that the shock just happened, so it can't happen again. Again, good use. I took the same route. Oh, VVD, not PVV. Okay, yeah, that's my B. That's my B. I got the party wrong the first time. Oh, okay. Oh my god. Okay. Give me this item. Give me mushrooms. 1 mushroom. That's actually fine. Yes, I used the bump to my advantage. I got 3rd because of that. Troops on our borders. They claim to be Belarusian Freedom Party and that they're training to beat Lukashenko. But why train inside Lithuania in a forest near to the capital city? Or Freedom Army. If they're actually like an insurgent group that is anti-Lukashenko, then it makes sense that they would be training outside of Belarus. You know, if they're actually like, because that would mean they're more friendly to Lithuania, and it's not uncommon that militant groups that are hostile to their home government will train elsewhere before going back to fight them. And in fact, this is a thing that like regular militaries do as well. Granted, that's less likely to be the case because Lithuania and Belarus are not on good terms. You know, competing geopolitical blocks and whatnot. But that's what I would assume initially until something else comes out about it. Let me see this article now. Where's the let's see, Google Translate. Oh, come on. Google Translate. Translate the oh my god. Translate this page, please. Thank you. We see a danger to the state of Narpeños. I guess it's just training, though. I hope so. Yeah, I mean, you know, you certainly hope that that's the case. I guess certainly keep your eyes peeled. The news article that you linked, it seemed to just be like a couple short paragraphs about it, so I don't know if there's much to be said, really. We'll see if this turns into something, but I hope it doesn't, and I think rationally speaking right now it doesn't look too much like it will. If fake guns training near our capital, Vilnius. Okay, then that makes sense for a more typical training exercise. Usually you don't want to do live fire with stuff like that. It is also possible that it's like they're training to invade Lithuania, but again, like that's a toothless sort of threat, because if they invaded Lithuania, Article 5 kicks in, all of NATO comes to defend them and all that. I got owned. I'm just now catching up to the messages from earlier about the Dutch political parties. The first VVD, then BBB, then PVV. Don't see that many improvements. Yeah, because the right wing and the right wing parties are not there to actually improve things. They're mostly there for like austerity politics and to talk shit about minorities, and occasionally, like, if they get the power, then they would do more than just talk shit. So that's why you shouldn't, you know, that's why you need to always vote against them if possible. At least VVD and BBB had actual ideas that don't break the EU or constitutional laws. That's true. There does also tend to be like that like effect where they need to introduce more and more theatrics over time. The far right does. Not that bad, so it's not like an invasion. Yeah. 9 players next. We call your country Lithuan. Bleh. Made my love much bigger to speaking English. Oh yeah. Yeah, different countries have different names and different languages, and they, you know, because some languages can or can't make certain sounds, those sounds might or might not be there for country names and stuff. I don't know how I feel about it, because I don't usually interact with the country names in other languages all that much. Belarus being white Rusland. White Rusland. Okay, yeah. Yeah, you know, Belarus is actually the Belarusian name for Belarus, and the English name for the country Belarus. Like, if you translated that from Belarusian to English, it would just be White Russia. You know? Kick the door in on that one? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how it became the case that, like, oh, the United States calls Belarus Belarus and not, like, White Russia. I don't know. Maybe that'd be a little bit weird. Whoa. Okay, that was kind of a close call. I will do this shortcut. Let's go. Alright. I think I've dawdled enough. It's time to talk about the very last thing. I talked some positive stuff about the Netherlands. We talked about Lithuania. We talked about Belarus. That's all fun. Let's talk about Azan. Weird champ. Used to like his stuff. Not anymore. He's been definitely going down the campus route of covering politics these days. With regards to Ukraine, but also a lot in regards to the Middle East. It seems like he's actually... I'll get to the specifics of this in a second, but like he seems like he's going down the social democrat to Nazi pipeline in real time that Rosa Luxemburg described, which is like initially you start talking less and less and less about class politics. You start more focusing on national and nationalistic politics, and then, you know, things could get worse from there. It's possible that he, like, pulls back on that, but I'm not entirely sure. Niederlande. That's a cute name, I think. Pretty crazy, but so far all tracks I've seen YGK playing, only tracks that I've also played. Have you not played that many tracks in the pack? That's kind of interesting. Your internet cut off by Belarusian PSYOP, probably. Ah, true. They don't. Yeah, that's right. They don't want you talking about Greater Lithuania. All lands under Skanderbeg except Lithuanian version. Albanians would be proud of you, I think. Or they might hate you. I don't know. Either way, you have... I don't fucking know, dude. But yeah, Azan. He has been, like a lot of people on the left, he's been having takes on the Houthis and Yemen that I don't agree with. But unlike other lefties online, he did an interview of a Houthi fighter. Really young guy, 19, so younger than me by about 4 years. You know, I'm 23 right now, to put that in perspective. He had a translator because Azan does not speak Arabic. He speaks Turkish and English. Azan who? That's the closest capital of the province for me. Very funny. Older than me by 20 years. Many such cases. Flat Earth Dennis 69 is -1 years old. You heard it here first. Yeah. That's right. And during the interview, he was very, like... He took a very uncritical approach to interviewing this guy, which is something I really do not agree with. You know, something to keep in mind. The Houthis are a rabidly anti-Semitic and, like, Islamist, fundamentalist militant group that controls most of Yemen right now. And he was kind of laundering that image. I still haven't come out of a bit of a shut-in. I see what you did there. That's mom already talking about world politics. What a god. True, he is Dr. Manhattan. Lithuanian version. Dr. Vilnius. That's him. Yeah, Hassan was, like, giving very softball questions and, like, pretty loaded questions, too, to this guy. And most of it was just sort of teeing him up to say free Palestine and America bad. We support our Palestinian brethren, which, like, you know, the Houthis don't actually care about that. You know, they don't actually care about, like, the Palestinian struggle. They don't really care about Israel because they've demonstrated that they'll just strike any ship going through the Red Sea and whatnot. Yeah, I don't think Hassan did a particularly good job on this interview, and I think it reaffirmed some of the worst tendencies on the left to be very campus against America, which leads to people supporting all sorts of unsavory actors simply because they are doing things that detriment American geopolitical interests, sometimes not realizing, in this case, that, like, the Houthis blocking off the Red Sea and whatever is bad for everybody. You know, nobody benefits from this. And like, furthermore, Israel isn't really hurt by that. Like, even, you know, if your ostensible aim is something like that, you know, it's not really working. You know. And a lot of what Hassan was doing as well was just the sort of react bro, like, damn, that's crazy sort of bit, which I think, you know, even if he wasn't giving all softball questions, I think that does a disservice to, or like, I think that's kind of a bad practice when you're purporting to do any sort of journalism. Obviously, in principle, I think it is a good idea to interview, like, militant fighters and whatever. I have a lot of respect for, like, wartime journalists who do this sort of thing. But yeah, he was saying, like, they were just talking about One Piece and whatever, and it really just seemed like Hassan doing PR for the Houthis. Bad decision making on my part there. Oof, there we go. They talked about like anime and One Piece and stuff, and you know, they were sort of doing the whole like Instagram influencer bit where this guy, obviously this guy was conventionally attractive, but like that's all the chat was focusing on really. They were like thirst posting and doing the whole he just like me for real bit. And at one point, Hassan asked like, what I would consider to be a good question. There were some good questions in there as well, but not much in the way of like actual interview pushback, which might not be a great idea under some circumstances, but like no real critical engagement. There we go. With the answers this guy was giving. He asked like, what is your life like in war-torn Yemen? Yemen is a war-torn country. There's a lot of things happening there. What is your life like? And he basically said, yeah, every day is an adventure and some shit like that. And Hassan, I think at one point he did realize like, okay, somebody's prepped this guy on what to say, but there like he didn't really, aside from saying that once, he didn't really indicate any degree of critical engagement, which is really bad from the perspective of like, I don't know, supporting left politics, because these guys are just effectively the far right, but in Yemen. He's probably living the socialist dream there. Yeah, no car, no iPhone, Venezuela, 69 million, that sort of thing. True. About Hassan, whoever did a bad interview, noticing words Mr. Bolshevik keeps repeating with big examples being like and Yeah, that's true. I do tend to say those a lot. Oh, there it is again. The one thing I would probably defend Hassan on in his conduct in that interview was like, it's possible the guy has a gun to his head, because the Houthis are fucking crazy. And I wouldn't really want to push to sort of push it too far on the grounds that there could be a possibility that this guy's safety is genuinely in jeopardy, and you don't want that to happen. But at the same time, there is a language barrier that like very easily you could be using to be like, okay, I don't think this guy's being completely honest or whatever. Keep in mind that he's a Houthi fighter and whatever, and they're like doing piracy, which in the One Piece world that piracy is based and whatnot, but in real life piracy is pretty bad in the modern day, and shit like that. And yeah, like you mentioned, most of Hassan's friends are all tankies. His mod team are frothing at the mouth tankies. Yeah. Double star pog moment. Very true. Imagine the Houthis being like Blackbeard. Yeah, they're nowhere near that based. Like piracy in the age of high piracy and whatever in I think the 17th and 18th century was based, right? Because didn't know the bloopers are custom as well. Yeah, some tracks do that. Some tracks have custom bloopers. This track does it. Daisy's Palace does it as well. That one like Jungle Jamble, that track does it as well. It has the one giant ink thing on the screen. Piracy in the 18th century, very different beast from piracy now, because wasn't the American Navy created to fight pirates? Yes, and it was also created in part to enable those pirates. Back in the day, a lot of the pirates would have better standards of living than the states that they were pillaging, which is not to say that they didn't rape, pillage, loot, plunder, whatever, but there was a little bit more moral ambiguity in the question of like, are the pirates in the right, or are the states in the right here? Because the Brits and the maybe not the Americans, but some other countries in Europe really did not treat their navies well. They did not treat their sailors well, And a lot of people, given the choice between the British Navy or, any European Navy on a given day and pirates, they would choose pirates because life was better as a pirate in the 18th century. Even if it was not all that long, it was comparatively less miserable. Um, but nowadays, piracy on the open sea is much more akin to just the worst distilled elements of that stuff, where now you don't even have the moral high ground of how you treat your own, and the like democratic organization, whatever, collective ownership, etc., etc. It's just like plundering trade that would have otherwise been like critical to the functioning of the world economy. The Red Sea is a huge, huge trade route in the region, for maritime trade on the global stage, and piracy affects the entire world negatively. Like you are causing the suffering of like actually hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people. First American Navy fought was against Arab pirates. That's right, the Barbary pirates, as it were. Half of what we did with the Barbary pirates was fighting them because they also pillaged our own navies and our ships, and the other half of what we did was give them money to do that to the British instead. I'm not joking. This is that like American foreign policy of funding militant groups that we are have some common interest with goes as far back as the founding of the country. Because a lot of those Barbary pirates, some of them were actually pirates, but a lot of them were also privateers. They were employed by foreign states, like the Kingdom of Morocco at the time. That's why there's the first embassy that the U.S. opened was in Morocco, because we wanted to pay them to plunder the British instead of us. We paid them, like, we'll pay you to allow us safe passage if you concentrate on the British. This was a dance that actually a lot of countries engaged in at the time with pirates, like trying to get favor from them temporarily to go after other nations instead. But nowadays, because of how much trade has expanded, there's a pretty ubiquitous consensus the world round that piracy is just not good for anybody, and like no countries really engage in that anymore. Not with pirates, anyways. The U.S. still does this with like militant groups and whatever. In foreign countries. Anyways, sorry, I've rambled for a lot. I wanted to talk about that Hassan interview. I don't think it was very good. It enabled the it enabled the whitewashing of the Houthis, which are not a good movement to whitewash. And of course, it whitewashed their actions, which is just BTFOing random merchant ships, and also expelling the Jews. In fact, in the past couple of years, there have been some expulsions of the Jewish community from Yemen by the Houthis. Does Yemen have oil? I actually don't think so. Let me see. Oh, no, that's not true. Yemen boasts 3 billion barrels of crude and 17 TCF of natural gas, according to the U.S. Energy Information Agency. So they do have oil. But given the state that their country is in, they're not in much shape to capitalize on that. Unless they stabilize somewhat. Then America will win. Yeah, I mean, look, America has like the strongest uncontested military in the world. The Houthis basically can't do anything against the United States, and I think that's for the better, because what they were doing is really bad. It's worse than what we've been doing. American bombing campaigns are not great. They're not ideal. Even in this case, it's like a bad idea for the long term. We want to try to put somebody in power who won't do missile strikes every couple of days, Houthi or not. I fucking lost my train of thought. God damn it. Yeah, the real damage that the Houthis were causing was to like the flow of trade through the Red Sea, because that affects everybody, especially people in like the Horn of Africa area, like that part of the world, and in Asia that are shipping their stuff to Europe. Yeah. That's all I got for today, I think. So no, the Houthis are not actually based in Red Pill. They are cringe. They're anti-Semites, and they're just going Joker mode basically. And I think that's bad for everybody, uh, including the Yemeni people. Oh yeah, I was actually going to mention about the U.S. bombings that incredibly there haven't been any civilian casualties reported thus far that I'm aware of, which is good. But even still, usually don't want to do that for too long. But Luffy, yeah, it's true. But Luffy, indeed, man. I've never watched One Piece, so I don't know. But I think the comparison does probably a disservice to the narrative of One Piece because in One Piece like because they saw what an L Israel took with those. Yeah, that being no L at all. See, the thing about the blockading the Red Sea and whatever, or striking random ships in the Red Sea, is that Israel gets stuff from the West. They do rely on some Red Sea trade, as does everybody in the world, but they weren't getting the really raw end of the deal with that. They would still be able to get stuff from the Mediterranean, and the Houthis weren't really doing much to impede Israel's economic activity. I'm all for boycott, divest, and sanctions and whatever if there are countries that decide to do that. If you can make a real economic impact on Israel to try to get them to stop, but that's not what the Houthis are doing, and they don't actually care about that because if they did care, they would be specifically looking for Israeli ships, to detain rather than launching missiles at every ship that passes through. Most of them civilian ships of random countries. Anywho, Cody Schwab is live. So let's raid him. He's playing some Super Smash Bros. And so that'll be fun. I don't think any of that is going to be a segment, probably, because I'm editing something else right now. We'll see what next future streams bring. Yeah. Yeah, bye. I'll see you guys on Saturday. I'll be back on Saturday. And beginning raid now. Haha.